I think for the vast majority of Americans, they're somewhat caught between those two extremes. And to be clear, what I see from the president is continue unlawful, un-American, unconstitutional actions. And I think people's opposition to that is based with a lot of legitimate reasons. But I think for the most part, Americans aren't as polarized as sometimes our public framing of it can be.
Now, staying in America on the domestic front, we've been seeing steadily coverage of growing tension in various states of the Union over the involvement of that federal agency, ICE, in pursuing those that the agents believe may be liable to be deported from the country as illegal immigrants. Some of the confrontations have been pretty ugly. The political confrontations have certainly been very sharp indeed between the White House and leaders of democratic states overwhelmingly who the president sees as political opponents, and there's no disguising that hostility. Well, we can talk now to Nick Brown, who is the Attorney General for the state of Washington in USA. Hello to you, Nick.
Hello, good morning.
Morning, where you are. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, tell me this: the shooting of that 37-year-old mother, Renee Good, now seen by countless millions of people on social media. There were so many cameras on that awful incident. It took tensions to a new level. We've seen demonstrations against the operations by the ICE federal agency and its agents in various parts of the United States. Did that issue, that shooting, did that change things, Nick? If so, tell me how.
Well, I think first just want to recognize how tragic it is that an American citizen was shot by a federal officer. The loss of life, the orphanage of her child, all of that I think should fill the entire country with a great deal of sadness. I think what really started the increase in tension was the fact that the president decided to flood the state of Minnesota and the city of Minneapolis with hundreds, if not thousands, of federal agents to do, purported immigration enforcement. And from the beginning, it was pretty clear that the ICE agency there was acting with a really aggressive tactics, arresting or detaining a great number of people, including a number of American citizens. We've seen videos of countless arrests of people in their workplace who are in fact American citizens. But the shooting really, the tragic nature of it, the video coverage of it, the protests that have now followed, I think it really has heightened a sense of awareness of what we're seeing from the administration, which is really an attack on an American city. And, we would hope to have a president that would lead with calm and community building and concern for all American citizens. But I just don't think that's what the people in Minnesota are feeling right now. And I know that has spread throughout the country.
Now, if there was an official from the White House sitting here with us now, they would no doubt say that these federal agents are executing essentially the will of the people who voted for this administration, which stood on a platform of coming down hard on illegal immigration. And the ICE agents are doing that duty, and further ICE agents have been deployed to keep them safe in a tense situation. What would you say to that argument?
I would say it's just not consistent with the facts or indeed what the president and his team said during the campaign. If you recall, President Trump made very clear that he was going to focus on what he deemed the worst of the worst and go after deporting criminals and gang members and people committing violent crimes. But that's just not what we're seeing. What we're seeing is clearly a quota-based in immigration enforcement, where they're really just set on increasing the overall number of people that are deported. And again, the targeting of people with very limited, if no, criminal records, and the targeting of a number of American citizens because of their purported or a race or identity, and so many mistakes made by immigration enforcement. I think most people in America will get around the idea that we need to keep people safe, that we need to deport people who have, committed violent crimes in our country. But that's just not borne out with what they're actually doing. And it's coupled with a rhetoric of hate and fear and false narratives against anyone who does not look like the president or does not purport with his own sort of political identity. So I just don't think it's true that what they're doing is what the American people thought they were voting for.
We are seeing, aren't we, a face-off between two Americas here. There is if you like, those who are in and around the MAGA circle, supportive of Donald Trump and his agenda, and those who are absolutely opposed to that agenda and see it as alien to their values and the America that they consider they've grown up in and that they stand for and believe in. And this face-off, it's going to get worse and worse, more hostile and more hostile. It's going to change America, isn't it, for good?
Well, I certainly hope not. I mean, and I think I would just disagree slightly with your framing that
Yeah,
I certainly think that we have people that have retreated to, a fervent defense of MAGA and anything and everything that President Trump does. And there's certainly a slice of America that really opposes any single thing that comes from the administration. But I think for the vast majority of Americans, they're somewhat caught between those two extremes. And to be clear, what I see from the president is continue unlawful, un-American, unconstitutional actions. And I think people's opposition to that is based with a lot of legitimate reasons. But I think for the most part, Americans aren't as polarized as sometimes our public framing of it can be. And I think, as a country, we've shown ability to persevere through a lot of different high points in our country. My parents grew up in the civil rights movement in the United States of America, which changed our country for good. But there was a time during that, certainly, where we thought that we would be forever divided. And I just think that
yeah.
we have persevered through some of those challenges. And I feel very confident America's going to survive Donald Trump. We're going to survive this moment. We're going to survive this tension. But we really have to be mindful of the gravity of the environment that we're currently in and why it's so incumbent upon states, attorney generals like myself to push back and to fight back and defend our people and defend our laws. And we see a president who doesn't really give a care about people in states with political ideologies that don't comport with his.
I mean, can you be confident of that, Nick? Seen from outside, this looks like a redefining moment for the United States.
Yeah, well, history will decide ultimately, but again, I think as a country we have overcome so much. But this is a critical moment for all of us, and not only for Americans, but indeed for the world, because our world position is also changing rapidly, and some of the things we've seen on the foreign policy front should fill many of us with a great deal of concern. But I'm confident and hopeful that we will not only survive this moment, but we will learn some vital lessons about the concentration of power in one person and be very fearful of someone who acts with really a lot of authoritarianism and frankly fascist characteristics. And that's what we're currently seeing in Donald Trump.
Okay. Nick Brown, Attorney General for the state of Washington, thank you.